What's going on YouTube? This is JRJuggernaut1. It's going to be my first ever daily discussion video. Hope you guys enjoy it. So I was thinking the other day, what would be the good thing to talk about for in this video? The first video, I should say. A lot of things came up, but there were only a few that really stuck out. One was talking about teams, like to start talk about like the benefits, why it's good to join a team. But also kind of the problems that come up with it as well. Well, that I think I'm going to save for another episode until the issues with my team are completely resolved. And I shouldn't say there aren't really issues going on now as much as there will be issues in the near future. Let's just put it that way. Instead, I thought I'd talk about another interesting topic, something that I don't think people talk about in great detail, and that is rogue decks. I know what you're thinking. People make rogue decks all the time. I just want to talk about the reasons why I like them so much and why I want to hear what you guys think of it. Excuse me. Well, one of the reasons I really like rogue decks, for one thing, is the fact that they're just different. I mean, and they just really make Yu-Gi-Oh! Existent, for one thing. I mean, would there be a real format if all the decks that were run were top tier decks? Like right now, do you think it would be fun if like everybody ran only Infernity, X Saber, Glad Beasts, or Quick Draw plans or something like that? No, they wouldn't. Having rogue decks just allows for infinite deck possibilities, and it just allows there to be a lot more underdogs in these competitions. For example, one of my favorite rogue decks to run was, of course, the Stardust Assault Mode deck. Now, while there are a lot of ways to deal with Stardust Assault Mode, the fact was, with many decks, getting him out was just complete lockdown. So therefore, he was what I consider to be an underrated deck, I guess I should say. However, there was, of course, one drawback. There was no generic formula for a good Stardust Assault Mode deck. People had their own way of making it, and a lot of them were pretty inconsistent. Mine was somewhat consistent. I think it was consistent for the most part, but there was no perfect formula. There was no formula that would result in a top-tier Stardust Dragon Assault Mode deck. People have gotten close, though, but I mean, I remember there was a guy at Nashville, Shonen Jump Nashville, who almost made top 32 with like a Flamel Assault build of some sorts. I don't remember it, but it was interesting. And, I mean, that's just one of the many different Stardust Dragon Assault Mode decks people have tried to make, you know? It's pretty crazy. But yeah, there's also a lot of other rogue decks that you'll find. For example, maybe Frogs, Batterymen, Crystal Beasts, and the list just goes on and on. But what I really like about it, though, is that people are willing to make these decks because they think they can be very good, even if they're not considered to be as good as other decks that are like top tier, you know? Like, people don't give up, and I have a lot of respect for people like that. One thing that also made me think about this a lot today was there was this one guy at my locals today who was playing an Ojama deck. Now, I know a lot of people give Ojamas crap because it's like, oh, what are you going to do with zero attack monsters or something? Well, this guy had a very good build of it, and we actually played a match for fun, and he beat me in one game because he was able to Delta Hurricane me, and he had Ojama Country, and he just swung at me for 5,000 attack, and I just couldn't deal with it, you know? It's also very much an anti-meta because it switches the attack and defense of your monsters. And that can really hurt you, especially if you're running a lot of tough monsters, you know? I mean, if you're running Dark Armed and you're able to get them out, obviously you're just going to destroy Ojama Country and then you're fine. But, you know, having Ojama Country makes it a lot easier for your opponent to deal with your monsters as long as their defense is relatively low. But yeah, you get the idea. But to be honest, one of the main reasons I beat him was because 2 out of the 3 games I had Starlight Road when he played Dojama Delta Hurricane for the win. But yeah, oh god, it pissed him off to no end though. He was just like, Delta Hurricane, I'm like Starlight Road. Bye bye. But yeah, Ojamas are one of the many decks that you could be running as well. And as you'll see, like you'll randomly find cards that are just being made to kind of promote a new, a new deck, and they're just meant to strengthen it. I mean, like when Swamp Frog came out, and I believe it was Stardust Overdrive, that made Frogs a more viable deck. And once Ronin Totem came out and on Shining Darkness, they became even more viable. The fact is, at least Konami is thinking about um, all these different decks when they're making these like new packs. So I'm glad to see that they're being kept in mind. Now my liking uh for rogue decks, does that mean I have anything against people who run top tier decks? Not at all. I mean, true, I might, if there are people who are just running the decks because it's top tier, as opposed to running it because they like it, because they have a personal liking for it, I'm not gonna hate on you for it. I'm not gonna like it, but I'm not gonna hold any grudge against you or anything like that. In the end, it's all about what people want to run. Some people are going to choose to run a rogue deck. Other people are going to choose to run a top tier deck. But regardless, it all comes down to the player and not the deck that you're running, which is why rogue decks are in fact able to do well. Not always because they're considered to be like very high on like the tier list, the tier list of decks, but because the player using it knows how to make it do really well against other decks. A great example is actually Chris Bowling, who was running Chaos in, I believe it was like, Teledad Lightsworn format. He won, I think it was either Shonen Jump or Nationals, I forgot, but he won with Chaos. He was like the Lone Ranger of the whole group, and it just shows that it's the player, not the deck, that really, that really that does well. I mean, I guess some people will say that person got to the finals because they're running a top tier deck, but I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think it's that simple. Do you really think any player can make it to the top just because they're running, say, Infernities? I mean, if that was the case, then I'm sure every single Infernity, then I'm sure most of the Infernity players would have made it to the top tables, or you would have had a much bigger percentage of Infernity players in the top 32. But my opinions on Infernities, that'll come in another video. Don't worry about that. Trust me, if you're an Infernity player, you're not going to like what I have to say. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to kind of wrap up this video. I hope you guys didn't find my semi-rambling to be a problem, but I'm trying to do this for the very first time. I want to hear your feedback, so make sure to comment on the bottom. And just stay tuned for more videos, guys. I got a lot more stuff I want to talk about. And also, if you're looking for me to talk about a specific thing, leave a comment about that as well. I definitely want to hear feedback from others. And yeah, this is JRJuggernaut1 signing off.